We're 2 weeks into preseason, and I want to talk about how some of these rookie quarterbacks are doing, starting with Shough, who I think looks really sharp and actually shows an element of aggressiveness right from the jump here, although he does overthrow this receiver slightly, but I was pretty impressed with how quickly he got into rhythm. A couple of simple but on-time, accurate throws here. Shough, by the way, less than 10 days older than Trevor Lawrence, who for context has already been in the league for 4 years. Shough may be a rookie, but he's not exactly lacking experience, which I think you can tell with how at home he looks in an NFL offense, preseason or not. Now, with this said, my first nitpick comes on this play, and not that it was a disaster, but I want him to be a bit more patient with the processing. Hopefully he can feel that there's not too much pressure at this point and he has time to read this defender's movement, because if the defender stays with this receiver, then that would have given his target a bit more space after the play, or if the defender really clamped down on the short throw, this receiver would have been coming open for a bigger play. What Shough ultimately did though was he didn't really give the play design a chance to work its magic. He forced it in here a little earlier than he needed to, but ultimately a completion anyway. Things get a bit messy on this play, but due to no fault of his own and stays reasonably calm under the pressure. Shough being no stranger to pressure, on the field or academically, graduating from Oregon with 2 bachelor degrees in criminal justice and political science. He also went on to earn a master's degree in interdisciplinary studies. This one doesn't look like a good play, and this time he probably is a bit jumpier than he needs to be, but he does recognise the pressure early coming from the right side, and a really important detail about this play is his instinct when under pressure is to step up and not to start running backwards, which thanks to the rare brilliance of Mahomes has become a real trend and allowed people to forget that running backwards for a quarterback is not a good thing. One thing I should mention is that I'm trimming a lot of the pre-snap motion on these clips, but it is going on almost every play. This is because new head coach Kellen Moore uses a ton of motion in his offense, which particularly for a young quarterback can cause some confusion. Everyone needs to be on the same page, but for what it's worth, I haven't caught any hiccups. Shough seems in complete command of the offense, at least from what I can tell on film. Now, the offense isn't doing a lot for him at the moment, but the important thing is he's not doing anything stupid. That is until his only major mistake of this preseason so far, and it's a classic. Throwing to the sideline can be a dangerous game because it may seem like your receiver has the leverage, but just with the way these throws are angled, it's very easy for these lurking defenders to undercut and make a play on the ball. So a mistake, but an understandable one in my book, and we'll call it a lesson learned. The important thing is, how does he bounce back? Resilience is vital in an NFL quarterback, as we know. And look at the way he hangs in there. I realise this may look like nothing, but he's going through multiple progressions and making a throw in the face of pressure in his first game as an NFL quarterback. And if it looks like nothing and I'm overreacting to this, then why do other rookie quarterbacks like Shough, Sanders and Cam Ward not have the ability to hold their ground in the pocket like this? Shough may not have the upside of Cam Ward, but he already looks like a good starting quarterback to me. After this screen, you're going to see him make an accurate deep ball coming off the play action. And not that this is the toughest deep ball in the world, it's really kind of a layup, but it is somewhat reminiscent of my comparison for Shough, which is Ryan Tannehill. So Shough looking pretty good so far, but something to be aware of is that this is what he was drafted to be. He is almost 26 years old, as I previously mentioned, and his experience comes with a somewhat concerning injury history. So make no mistake about it, this is not a long-term project for the Saints. They drafted him because they think they might be ready to win in the next couple of years, and they don't want Spencer Rattler to be the starter. This play, although he didn't quite pull it off, highlights a pleasant surprise that I found in Shough's college film. He's not as rigid as you may first think when watching him. He's got some of this off-platform sidearm ability. One thing I'm keeping an eye on though is his jumpiness in the pocket. He's clearly got a really good feel for pressure as he picks up on it very early, and the instinct to move up in the pocket is impressive. But with this level of pressure, it needs to be a more subtle movement, because if he just stops here, he's now back within this bubble that the tackles are providing him. It's enough to keep the pass rushers at bay for a moment and hopefully get his eyes up and find this back in a bit of space. But he keeps going, and this is such a drastic movement up in the pocket that he's actually walking straight into the pressure. It may seem subtle, but pocket movement is subtle and all the greats have mastered it. In case you're wondering, Shough was initially a second-round prospect for me, but I would then go on in a later video to update my rankings, and one of the main changes was that I actually saw Shough as a first-round prospect. I thought this was a pretty impressive play. He's going to hold his ground in the pocket, but then nothing comes open and the pocket does collapse, and only when the pocket collapses does he escape and show his out-of-structure ability. So not that he did anything outrageous, but I thought this first performance flashed exactly what I thought Shough would be in the NFL, which is a quarterback that if you put good things around him, good things will come out. The question going forward, I think, will be, are the Saints going to put good things around him? Although he doesn't take as many snaps against the Jags in week 2, he does actually start this game, and he picks up right where he left off, because this is the sort of play that looks really simple on the broadcast, but I think this is sharp for a rookie quarterback, because he's going to start to his left, recognises that that isn't open, but as he comes across, what he's actually reading now is the movement of this defender, because by recognising the momentum of this defender's movement, he's able to hit his receiver as he's coming open. Now that may seem pretty self-explanatory in slow motion, but what I was impressed by was the speed in which he did it. And that's where Shough is not your typical rookie quarterback. He doesn't need a second to work everything out, it just kind of happens instinctually. Now, this one looked pretty ugly, but the reality is he was under immediate pressure and lost his footing. Not the end of the world. And then there's not a lot he can do on this play either, under pressure and nothing comes open. But from this point, I thought he played an outstanding game. Makes this throw with timing, velocity and accuracy, before on these next few plays showing this sensible aggressiveness that I really enjoyed on Shough's college film. And I realise this is an incompletion, some may even say a missed throw, but there's nothing open all over the field. What he recognises here is that the defender has his back turned, so although he's all over the receiver, he tries to give his receiver a chance by putting it where only he can get it. And that's exactly what he does. In fact, I think the receiver even got a fingertip on it. Unfortunately though, Chris Olave not known for his contested catch ability, which is why on the next play he ignores Chris Olave and puts it where only his tight end can get it, and this time for a completion. But again, love the controlled aggressiveness, especially as right now he's kind of having to make something out of nothing, and I think he's made a lot of accurate throws all over the field. There would have been an opportunity downfield on this play, but pressure forces him to make the simple throw. But the consistency he shows, particularly in this game, let me know if I'm overreacting in the comments below, but I feel like I'm watching a veteran, like a Kirk Cousins in his prime. Now, Kirk Cousins has never won a Super Bowl, and hold that thought because look how Chris Olave lets him down on this play. Really solid processing again, great execution on the throw, and Chris Olave puts it down, which ties into my point because without doing a whole deep dive into the Saints team as a whole, Olave's their number 1 receiver. The offensive line is still in progress. The defense is still very much in progress. The Saints, to me, don't feel like they're going to be competing for a Super Bowl in the next couple of years. So my question to you, and let me know in the comments below, are the Saints going into that danger zone of mediocrity, particularly with Tyler Shough? Because as a big fan of Tyler Shough, I'm not trying to tell you that he's going to be Josh Allen, where he can take a good team to a whole new level. What I am telling you is that he's good enough to keep a mediocre team from having a top 10 pick in the next 5 years, just like the Minnesota Vikings with Kirk Cousins. I mean, if you're a Viking fan, it wasn't all doom and gloom, but that's 6 years out of your life. And did it ever actually feel like you were that close to competing for a Super Bowl? So I appreciate that that's looking a long way ahead, but there's no point having this conversation in 5 years and going, oh look, we wasted 5 years, how did that happen? The Saints need to be making that decision this year. Is Tyler Shough and this roster going to be good enough to truly compete over the next few years? But regardless, that's really a separate conversation. I think Tyler Shough's going to be a really good quarterback. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in week 3. If you did enjoy the content, please consider liking and subscribing. It would be very much appreciated, and I'll see you next time.